Today we're finally tackling something I've been looking forward to for quite a while now. We're building the train platform next to the airport. That way passengers can now get from the airport to the city, immediately making the entire LEGO City build much more cohesive. I started by using some cut tiles as a foundation, and to lock the platform in place I then used cone pieces. They basically just help everything stay lined up and secure. Then I moved on to these antenna parts because there's a really fun illegal building technique you can do with them. Just pop off the antenna and then only use the gray base part, the one with the little gap in it. I'm now using these gap pieces to build a rectangle onto the platform, and then in order to align them properly I used a brick separator. Kind of works like a screwdriver in this case. And then as soon as everything is prepared, the idea is to anchor the glass panes without the chunky window frames. And although this is once again of course quite an illegal building technique, I'm aware of that, I think it looks super clean and modern. To break up the colors a bit, I added our classic brown chairs again. Sure, dark gray might have been a bit more modern, but brown brings in a nice warm contrast. For the roof, I now used the same antenna technique once again to lock the glass in from the top as well, so everything is extra secure. Next to the platform there's a ticket machine and we've got the first passengers waiting around. The rest of the design is really minimal. I'm only adding 2 light posts that of course are going to be lit up at some point. I also used a more modern design for a trash can, which was a fun little build. I used brackets and these new modified plates, which lets you align 2 curved slopes perfectly without any gaps. That gives it this slick modern look I was going for. Moving on, people of course need a way to get off the platform, so now it's time to add a zebra crossing. To do that, we've got to fight our way through this dense green area. Last time I said it was too green, so that's what we're now tackling. But before we start with that, let's start with the annoying part. The road that's already built has to be completely ripped out so I can then fit the crossing in. And let's be real, this would have been way easier if I'd planned ahead of time. Took me a solid 2.5 hours because I couldn't get the curve to sit properly in the frame again. These road strands kept coming loose, and so I decided to spare you this whole struggle, and in the end I still think it was definitely worth the effort. And once that was sorted, we finally got to the more fun part. First of all, it's time to mow the lawn. Basically, I had to remove all the plants we've added last time. Then I grabbed these 45-degree cut tiles, which by the way are quickly becoming one of my favorite pieces because they let you add angles without needing any fancy building techniques and tricks. I'll show you a before and after picture at the end. Next up, back to the train tracks. And as you know by now, I want to loop the side of the train track back into the main line using a switch rather than just ending it with a bumper near the sawmill. It just feels way more complete that way rather than having random dead ends everywhere throughout the LEGO City. Once that was done, I could finally deal with something I've been putting off for literally months now, and I'm not even exaggerating, the track ballast. I'd actually ordered the pieces for it ages ago, but just kept avoiding the work. Still, at some point, of course, it had to be done, and thankfully the step afterwards was much more rewarding. It was time for vegetation. It goes much faster and gives you that instant visual payoff. The green strip in the middle really ties it all together and makes a big difference in the final look. Next I tackled the front area, which I've mentioned a few times already is kind of a buffer zone for visitors. People lean over it, touch it all the time, so I kept things super simple, inexpensive and especially durable. We'll refine it a little more soon, but first I needed to close the gap to the wheat field, which we've built a few months ago already. I extended the moat area a bit, something I'd been planning to do anyway. I also thickened up the rest of the field and added some unmown stalks along the edges, simply to make it a bit more realistic. Working on the field also gave me the opportunity to finally add some more storytelling. I added 2 robbers sneaking through the field, dropping some money as they go, which was actually a common suggestion from when we built the field, and I loved it. Right next to them I prepared a small square using angled tiles once again, where I placed this transformer station. The design of it is based on those classic ones you still see in older rural areas all over Europe, and I thought it was the perfect detail to fill in that front space. From there, of course, we need power lines extending out. I'll talk more about how I might do that, maybe with some sort of string, in just a second, but it was super important at this point to have something happening in that front zone without being too fragile or fiddly to keep this buffer zone intact I was just talking about a second ago. Then I added a diagonal dirt path that leads from the edge of the city to both the transformer and the field, so farmers actually have proper access. Without that, it kind of felt a bit cut off from the rest of the world. So with that front part now being filled up, we now have to ask if we want to add a combine harvester or not, although I gotta say that right away I'm a bit afraid that it will ruin the scale of this section. But still, I'll of course start experimenting with different designs. And also for now, I've decided not to connect the power poles for one simple reason. When visitors lean forward and they fall over, they don't result in this sort of domino effect with every single one of them toppling over along the entire power line. Before we move on to the next part of today's update, this is a picture from 3 months ago to show you how important vegetation overall is. In this progress right here, we basically just added filler space, and then for this little improvement, the second before and after picture of today's video, if you take a look at the section where the yellow car is currently placed, the zebra crossing just makes quite a difference in combination with the path leading to the bus stop. And as always, we've done some major work on the other side of the Lego city as well when it comes to lighting up the city. First of all, since this part was already built, we of course had to rip out the core right in the center, and of course this is always quite painful work. As you can see, half of what we've built simply falls apart in this case. However, this was quite necessary also because of the dust that had settled over time. After that was cleaned up, we used our usual tricks to install the street lanterns. And of course, we also lit up another building, the museum right in the center. This museum is quite an old mock actually by now. It's a sort of ancient Egyptian museum. I'm quite sure that most of you don't even know the interior yet, so there's that for you. Then, after having lit up everything, we once again drilled holes to get the cables down beneath the Lego city, installed the museum once again, and then we could finally take a look at what everything looks like at night. And one thing you might notice is one blinking red LED on the right corner of the museum. This is a sort of silent alarm, since as you can see on top of the museum, people are currently breaking into it, and therefore we thought this might highlight the storytelling quite a bit, and the blinking light simply draws the attention right onto that scene. Next up, we worked on something much more interesting but also much more complicated. Specifically, Martin over the past months condensed all his experimentation he's been doing with the day-night mode into this little circuit board that now really brings action into our day-night simulation. And this time-lapse you can see right now, of course, is severely sped up, but this is so you get an idea of what exactly is going on at night but also at day now. Specifically, inside the houses you can see, we simulated people leaving different rooms and entering others, and therefore switching on and turning off lights once again. At night we kept everything steady and lit up, so you actually get a chance of seeing all the interior designs, and then when we switch back to the day mode, once again you can see the simulation going on again. And this is my question for you: would you prefer having the simulation going on at night as well, so we could theoretically do it that towards the end of the night all the lights turn off as people go to sleep, or is it better if everything is lit up, although it's a bit more unrealistic at night? So definitely let me know what you would prefer in this scenario. And as always, if you have any ideas whatsoever, post them down in the comment section. And with that being said, that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again in the next one.